Hi, everybody. Welcome back to A Dog's Devotion. I decided to change things up a little bit today. It is the second episode, so I'm outside. I wanted to be around some dogs because, well, that's what this podcast is all about, dogs. And for me, who recently lost my dog, Max, it's nice to have dogs around where I can just feel the love of a dog. Do you know what I mean? And I'm speaking to my guest, Lena. Let me tell you a little bit about Lena first. When Max first passed, I was introduced to her by a friend of mine who said, "You need to speak to Lena. She's the best spiritual healer ever." And of course, at first, I was a little skeptical, not knowing what to expect. But we had an hour session. I actually think, Lena, it went a little over that. And you saw me cry, you saw me do all kinds of things, but you really helped me get over Max. It was a really hard time. And so this session with you, and what I want everybody to learn about is that you actually help people get over grief. And it's one of the hardest things to get over. And everybody I've spoken to has said the same thing. Um, it's like losing a loved one, it's like losing a family member. And, I was in the fetal position for 2 weeks in bed. I couldn't get out. And I know I'm not the only one, but you are here to help everybody. So what you do is something called Quantum Leap Biofeedback. I'm going to get you to explain it to everybody what it is. Then I'd love you to tell us how you got into it. And then, of course, what your clients say. I'm forever grateful. You really helped me. Um, but explain to me how you got into it and how it all works, because you do it online. And right now we're in different countries, but you can still pick up my vibes. Um, Speak to Max, give me messages from Max, which gave me so much comfort. So uh, please tell everybody a little bit more about yourself.
Okay, so my specialty is quantum biofeedback, which is cutting edge technology that is able to scan the body and then balance the body. But just to give you a little background, how did I get into this?
Yes.
That From a very young age, I always wanted to help when I was in front of someone who was in pain and anguish. I just wanted to help relieve some of that. So the sources of inspiration for
Mhm.
me, one is Jesus. Uh, I was raised Catholic, and what most stood in my mind, stayed in my mind about what he did was that he was a healer.
Right.
And it even said in the Bible, you can do what I can do. And what he did was he would put his hands on people and they would miraculously feel better. And even to the point where someone would touch the cloak he was wearing and they would be healed. And then there was Lazarus that he brought back from the dead. So when I heard that we can do what he can do, I really wanted to know. So that was one, and that was early days.
Mhm.
Then, on the opposite spectrum, the other source of inspiration was Star Trek.
Star Trek.
Now I'm really dating myself.
No,
Uh,
it's okay. I know. I remember the first Star
ah,
Trek with William Shatner, so I'm dating
yeah,
myself
Captain
too.
Kirk on the Starship Enterprise. I so resonated with that. From the everything about it, I'm like, yes, yes, yes. But I was most impressed by the sick bay. Bones was the doctor,
Oh,
right?
right. Yeah.
Right, and they'd have one of the the people on the ship break an arm, and they bring him into sick bay, and uh, Bones would take what looked like this, and he would run it over the arm, and it would, in a minute later, the person gets up and gets back to work.
Oh,
They also had scanners where they could scan what was going on in the person. And this was old technology where it was way before we even had MRIs, and we had X-rays, but not much else. And so that stayed in my mind, and I always knew that that was possible. So as I grew up, well, my first careers were in corporate. I was very successful. I was in marketing and advertising, starting from production to sales, and then as a management consultant. So I would work with CEOs to assist them in changing their corporate culture. And I did really well. I was very, very successful, but I wasn't satisfied.
Right.
It didn't feel like it was helping at that very nerve, that that purpose, or it didn't satisfy that need I had to really help people in a personal way. So there was and it was I remember the day I said, that's it. It was the day that Princess Diana was killed.
Ah, and that's the day
Right.
you decided to quit your job and go after your
I
passion.
literally quit my job
Oh,
very soon after that. I felt that here was someone at the top of her game.
hmm.
She was like the most compassionate person in the world. And
Yeah.
she was finished at, I don't think she was 40 at the time. So I made that commitment that for the rest of my life, let me do what fulfills me in my heart, in
Good
my
for
soul,
you.
in my mind. So I started to study. I quit the executive position that I had, crazy, right? Really crazy. And I went into studying healing modalities. And the first one I studied was Reiki, which is laying on of hands,
Yeah.
very much the Jesus stuff. And part of Reiki was that you could do it from a distance, which I really liked. And from there, I just kept learning more and more where I learned how to actually feel the energy fields and clean it up and energize it. So I was working with my hands as a tool.
Were you working with people or
Yeah. But
when
I must say, I my first place that I made a name for myself was working with horses.
with horses?
Horses.
Ah, interesting.
Horses, and I worked with horse farms, and they would bring me in to do this laying on of hands and the working with the energy field, which looked like this, kind
Yeah.
of out there. Uh, it was not mainstream kind of things. I worked with dogs, and I have always been a cat person. So I've had a series of cats, and cats, they're finicky. You can't always touch them. You can touch them when they let you. So
Yes.
when they needed help, I was able to have tools that would help them from a distance or very close to them without interfering with their personal space, which they all
Right.
had.
Yes.
So I had a series of modalities. I had a full-time practice in what I call energy work. And then one day, through a doctor, I was introduced to quantum biofeedback technology, which I will show a little bit of it, not too much, because
Hmm.
it's just to show you that it is possible to work with technology. And in this technology, we're able to do the Reiki. We're
So
able,
even though you and I are in different countries and we're very far apart,
yeah,
you could still read me and my energy um through your technology and then come back and give me the results, which you
yeah.
did. And you showed me what to work on and what I should be doing and things to help me get better.
And I guess the question comes up is, how is that possible?
Well, yeah, of
Right?
course. How is that
Right?
possible?
Well, the key word is quantum.
Okay.
Quantum physics. I'll give you the kindergarten version. Quantum physics says that everything is both a particle and a wave. Physical. This hand is physical. But in fact, every part of it has its own signature vibrational frequency. The fingernail has a different vibrational frequency than the knuckle or the skin or the bone inside of it. And all of that can be mapped. There, that that those signatures can be measured and recorded in the technology,
Hmm.
like memorized into the technology. So when we run a scan on everything about the body, every part of it.
So when you ran
Including,
your scan on me, Lena, were you seeing discrepancies, things that were not right with me because of the grief I was going through?
yeah,
I know you recommended some things that I should start taking, which I did. But your scan shows what's going on within my body and what's not working and what is.
yeah. I guess this
Amazing.
is the time to do a disclaimer that I'm not a doctor, I'm not a
Yes.
vet, and I'm not a naturopath. I have
No.
licensing like that. I'm essentially, uh, I am a quantum biofeedback specialist. I stay away from the therapist languaging just to stay
Right.
out of that medical model.
Right.
I'm also an animal communicator. I
Which
teach
is
how to
how
do it,
you could talk to Max
and Max was
and other animals. So
exactly,
dogs, cats.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. So that to me is super interesting how you're able to communicate with animals that have passed on or passed over the Rainbow Bridge.
Or even well, certainly the animals that are here. And
Yeah.
you're an animal communicator because you and Max probably understood each other very, very well. He would look at you and you know it was time to go out.
Yes.
He would look at his bowl and he didn't have to talk a lot, but you understood him in depth. And I actually teach people how to communicate with their animals.
While
Because,
they're still alive.
yeah,
Right.
at all times.
At
At
all
all,
times.
yeah, because they physically lose their body, but energetically they're still there.
Right. That's I remember you telling
Yeah,
me that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so quantum physics. Let's finish that. The
Okay.
science behind it. So particle and wave. What we're working with here is the wave, the energy, the frequency, and that frequency affects the body. It affects the molecules. It affects the hair, the skin, the tissue. Because we're working on let's call it the blueprint
Mhm.
of the physical world. We're readjusting the blueprint is really kind of a rough metaphor for that. The other piece that you asked about is how is it possible that you could be probably 2,000 miles away from me
Mhm.
and that I could affect you to such an extent that you felt better. You shifted out of the sort of the stuck pattern of grief
Right.
to moving forward.
Right.
So, quantum physics, besides particle and wave, which is the basic theory, is that in quantum physics, we have the fields, the energetic field that connects us all. And you know that because here we're talking on Zoom and on the phone or, through technology, and we can interact very intensely with it in this way. But taken to a whole other level, this quantum field, the main principle of it, that there's only here and now.
Right.
In the regular uh, matrix, it's past, present, future. But in the here and now, we can access, in your case, what happened to you, I don't know how long before he had left you, maybe a week or a month, or, it was a while, but we met in the moment
Hmm.
and we were able to make a shift. And we were also able to contact Max.
I know you told me you
Yeah,
told me what Max had a message for me.
yeah, and not in any weird psychic,
No,
not just in a psychic way, but just we could feel him. He was there.
huh. That to me is amazing. It's you must have so many clients that are so grateful that where you make them feel like you did with me,
Yeah,
um, just a sense of peace.
yeah. Yeah, and the animals actually start to reach out to me. I first
They
started
do.
with
Oh,
them,
this is
and like
okay.
this. There's a
Uh,
little cat, a white cat, and she's
yeah,
ancient. She's barely hanging on by a thread. But every once in a while, she'll come to my awareness. And then the phone rings, within a few days.
yeah.
And it's her person who is saying, Shanti really needs some help. She's been on death's doorstep for about a year and a half. And so whenever we do a session, she gets energized.
He does. The
She
cat
gets
does.
she gets energized. She starts eating and pooping.
Can I ask how you do a session with a cat?
Well, in the similar way that I do with you, I'll
Yeah,
put in your name, your birth date, your birth location,
yeah.
and I'll run the scan, which takes about 4 to 5 minutes, and then all the information comes up, and the suggestions come up as well, how to support.
Interesting.
I know it's wild. It's
And no, it is wild. It is wild. It's wild. It's far out wild.
Yeah, yeah. I'm preparing some YouTubes so that people can see a session. Like we're
Mhm.
going to see a few minutes, but we have so much to talk about, and
Yeah,
just in terms of background, that we won't get the whole picture.
right,
But I'll work with her digestive system. I'll work with her with providing energy boosts. I'll work with her aura and her chakras. Whatever, in a sense, she asks me to do
right.
through the biofeedback. Okay, biofeedback. Let's do a what is that?
Yeah, yes.
We know biofeedback from thermometer.
Mhm.
Put it in your mouth and it says this is your temperature. The scales, you stand on them and they don't know, but you stand on them and they tell you what your weight is that day at that very moment. But the quantum biofeedback takes it to another level. That it's not like I just get one piece of information. I am then able to send back to correct. So say the temperature is too warm, I can send back frequencies that why pull it down.
Right.
But let me be clear, it's on an energetic level, it's on a frequency level, not so much as pouring cold water on you or putting a cold compress. We're
Right.
working with the quantum field.
But we're all energy,
We're
right?
all energy.
So it comes back to that.
And Einstein, who was a really forward thinking scientist, he was like leading edge in his day. He did not buy into quantum until very late in his life when he realized that there's only energy. That even
Everything is energy.
Yeah, even the physical is only energy. And you know that when someone passes, you've been there.
Yeah.
That body, as much as you loved it, it is that's not what you loved. It's you love the combination of the energy and the
Of
body.
the and
Yeah.
right, the energy and the body.
And
Right.
then when it's gone, it's like, no, I don't want this body. It's
Right.
so it's the combination that we want.
How do people find you? And what do your clients say? Like you must, like I said, you helped me. And I found you through a friend of mine.
Yeah, called
But
me
how
a
do,
she called me a spiritual healer.
yes.
Um, I'm honored that she would call me that,
Yeah.
but I prefer the more scientific side to it. So, um, how do they feel about it? Well, as I've been doing this for over 20 years, I really adopted this technology. I think it was 2001. 2001.
24 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. And as I've been working with it and upgrading and keeping up with the advancements of this very particular line of computers, they're becoming more and more and more effective. That people are getting results in the terms of their physical health, in terms of their emotional well-being, and even of their mind, because we're like not just one thing, we're physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, we're also environmental, so the environment affects us. So all I can say is people keep coming back for more, and that's really the test, isn't it?
Of course it is. Now, do you have more people that are coming to you who are dealing with their grief, or more people who have pets that are still alive and just
It's the whole mix. You
it
know that
is
the only problem with dogs is their lifespan. So
right.
and so the fact that we have such love for these creatures and then they pass, it's so devastating. Really, I feel that with Minnie, my cat, who actually went away, she was here when we started.
Yeah, I saw her
She was
tail
mine.
walking across the
Yeah, her little
screen.
tail was like this, and I didn't think that was really appropriate for this interview. Um, my feeling is that when I look at her and I feel the love that I have for her, which is unique, such a love greater than I love people. I really do. But that uniqueness, I feel like that's the divine. I actually talk to God when feeling the love for an animal. I'm like, source, divine. It's just that you should take this form that is so soft and sweet and available to open up my heart. And the other thing I feel about animals is that when they come to us, we invest a piece of our own soul in them,
Yes.
and they become our other, not other half, but a part of us, and that we get to interact with ourselves in a really beautiful way.
Mhm.
And yet their lifespan is short. So when they
It's much too short.
much, much
Mm,
too short.
yeah.
I actually had an interview with my cat Sati, who when my cat came in during the COVID years, two of them came, and their person had an assisted passage due to cancer. And so from 2020, so he died. He got sick and he died about a year and a half ago. And I have been connecting with him on the other side. And my first question is, why did you have to go? You're so young. He was only 8
Right.
years old. Why? And he was very wise. And he was like, what? I'm still here. And in fact, he said he uses Minnie's body to
Which is your other
interact.
cat.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
they're like truly married now.
Right.
So he comes through her and interacts with me, and he shows me that it's him by doing some things that only he did. Like
Really?
he really enjoyed my plate of food that when I finished the food, especially eggs in the morning, he
Yeah.
loved to lick the plate. Minnie never touches my food. She's not interested in any people's food. Once in a while, she'll start licking the plate. So anyway,
Interesting.
yeah, let's carry on.
Can you, so we have a pretty good idea of what you do. Can you show us an example of, if you share your screen, what you would get if you did a
Okay,
brief, I know normally it's an hour and it's quite intense, and there's a lot of screens and there's tons of information. So we're going to try to make it a little shorter, but I'd love to give people an idea of what you see when you scan somebody
okay,
through the computer.
okay. So just as a preface to that, especially due to grief and that emotion of grief, which is so sticky. Once you're in it, it's really, really hard to shift out of it.
Yes.
Let me show you. Uh, Emotions can be interpreted as frequencies. So let me show you an image. No, let me show you a visual. Visuals say like more than 1,000 words. This is a graphic that you can see. Okay, let me share my screen. I'll
Yeah.
share.
Show me. Let me see.
This is a graphic representation of emotions as they relate to frequencies. And this will make sense as we go into the device and I show you some of the screens. And really, I'm going to show you just a few screens.
Okay.
So you were when I first met you.
Yeah.
You were in grief. And in fact, you were in such grief that I think it took a week or two or three before you were even able to have a session with me. It was,
It was 2 weeks because I
yeah,
couldn't talk about it.
yeah, it
Yeah.
was that devastating.
Yeah.
So here you were. Can you see my screen here where my
Yeah.
cursor is?
I see a
Grief?
cone upside down with all the chocolate
Yeah,
colors. Yeah.
yeah. So starting at the bottom, these are low frequency, and he gave numbers to them. So, and I believe they're hertz. Like hertz is the way to measure frequencies. So grief is very low. It's 75 on this chart, and that is really the level of suffering. And I remember you actually even saying that you felt guilty. What did I do? What did you do to
Right.
cause, would this and that circumstance have caused him to die early? So that was an even lower frequency. And when we're down here in anger and desire and shame and guilt, they're all very low frequencies. When we're down here, we're actually in quicksand. It's very, very hard to pull oneself out of it. As we know from the movies with quicksand, you need some help to come out of it.
Right.
So the idea is to raise the vibrational frequency up, 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 up to the level here of courage, which is getting by, neutrality, willingness, and eventually come up to love and joy, peace and enlightenment, where we want to live. And really, we're here on earth to live up here. Everything's conspiring for us to be down here. And if you look around right now, most conversations with anybody watching the news is fear and anger.
Hmm.
So with people, I always just let's raise it up to at least neutrality. So let me go deeper into how we can change the channel on this. Think
I mean,
of the
how I can raise my frequency from
yeah,
being down at the bottom
yeah.
to where I should be.
So in the course of our session that we did on Zoom, you went up, 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 not necessarily like a ladder, but you got up at least to neutrality within the session, within the hour-long
And
session.
and how could you tell that?
Because okay, let's go into my software.
Yeah.
Let's go into emotions. This is the emotional panel,
Mhm.
and it creates a chart, an emotional chart. So I haven't explored this yet to see where you're at,
Right.
but right now you're well beyond uh, where you were when we first met. And here's a chart, an emotional chart of where you're at. What's at the
Right
top
now,
right
or
now? Just well, half an hour ago is when I scanned you.
oh geez, I see a lot of ups and downs in different colors. I
So let me explain how to read the
okay.
chart.
Okay.
Everyone has everything show up.
Okay.
What's at the top is what is presenting itself, saying, "This is, look at me. This is now, in the moment." In doctor terms, it would be acute, meaning it's showing up now. What's at the bottom is deep seated or chronic, underlying factors. So while we're talking, I am actually going to begin to balance these emotions. And I'm not balancing them by doing talk therapy that a psychotherapist would do to have you express your grief, uh, maybe talk you into a different perspective. No, we don't have to do that. So let's look at what's up for you right now.
Okay.
Ecstasy. This
Ecstasy.
this you're here to feel ecstatic and joy. Joy isn't on this one, but I call ecstasy as one of those higher emotions. You're doing right now what is your purpose, your expression of your purpose. coming from your grief. You're taking your background of, I believe you were a broadcaster, is that
Yeah,
right?
I was in media for 20 years. So this just seemed like an easy transition, Lena, from going from TV anchor to doing this.
Oh. So you're here in this life to do this,
Right.
to be doing podcasts. So if you can see, things are starting to shift as I sift through
Yes,
the emotions.
I just saw the chart change.
Let me show you what else is showing up at the top here. Extrasensory perception. That is telepathy. That is what we're here to talk about in your connection with Max.
Right.
To connect with him, even though his body is no longer here. The other thing, of course, there's some self-doubt because you're launching into a new field. It's not
True.
now you're managing the whole thing, kit and caboodle, as opposed to in the past, you had producers and directors and whatever, and
Right.
scripts to work with. Here we're just flying by the seat of our pants,
Pretty much.
pretty much.
Like, in all honesty, yeah, it's totally different. You're right. I'm doing everything on my own. It's a work in progress. It's a learning curve. How's
So
that?
so I worked with this panel with you, and I don't
Yeah.
recall where we were at then. But because I don't have to talk through that, like I don't have to be a therapist or shrink to take you through this, behind emotions, there's chemistry.
Chemistry.
Chemistry, let me show you. Be- behind the feelings is chemistry. And for example, serotonin is love hormone, right?
Yeah.
And uh, when you feel that hormone come up, you feel lightness and love.
Yes.
If you have, if you're anxious, you have adrenaline, and you're like, run for stress. I've got to da 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 da. Um, right now, your body is producing chemistry that is any pain you might have right now. You're not in touch with it. Like morphine is a chemical our bodies make to mitigate pain.
Right.
Like so, as you're doing this and doing your work, you can't even remember what kind of pain you had. So I don't have to. I can run this, and I don't need to because we actually did a very good piece on the emotion chart. So let's go back to emotions. So this is all to say that I can balance emotions. I can balance the grief in this chart, or in this part of the program.
Right. You can balance my emotions.
Yeah, yeah. And it was very easy. Like I just ran this once. Sometimes it'll take like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
The device tells me when you've had enough. And it's called rectification. I see up here at the top is 100.
Yeah.
This tells me that from one pass of this chart, one training, I call them trainings instead of therapies. Okay. Your body said, yes, I've got it. I know that this ecstasy is for me. And pride, you feel good, right? You feel good in this role of helping others go through what you went through. Okay, so that's one. Let's see if there's anything else. Let me point out at the bottom, underlying factor at the bottom is addiction. Now, addiction, we think of alcohol or sugar or coffee or cigarettes, but in
Right.
fact, the biggest addiction is the mind.
Is the mind.
The mind, thought patterns.
Yes. So when we think, uh, what we think is what we believe. So whether
Well,
we make up thoughts in our mind, that's what we believe. Is
well, for
that?
example, were in grief, when we met on that Zoom
Yeah.
call, you could not stop that. The 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 grief pattern,
Right.
the thoughts were, and they were abusive to yourself. Is it
right.
my fault? What did I do? How could I let this happen? How could he leave me? I can't live without him. And I think you even did express some of those, maybe not exactly those words, but you expressed that those feel, and they were running over and over and over again.
Hmm.
And all humans have this thing that runs over and over again that tortures them. I call it the monkey mind. So in my work, I teach people how to shut that thing down.
It's hard, Lena.
I know, but it's possible.
It is
And
possible. I agree because I've gone through it, but it's a process and it takes some work on, on the client side.
it takes stopping a repetitive pattern.
Yeah.
But once you learn it,
Hmm.
it's so much easier to get out of there and go deeper into the heart. So right now, what's your predominant feeling around Max when you think of Max?
Um, I feel love. I feel like he's around
Right
me all the
on,
time.
right on.
Um,
Yeah,
because I remember you told me to take it out of my head and put it into my heart. Um,
yeah,
and so yeah, I feel more love than although I still have days where I feel grief. I'm not completely cured, but I don't think
that's
I
the
ever will
addiction.
be.
That's
That's
the
the
addiction.
addiction. Yeah,
And for me, the I had to walk my talk when Sati died.
right.
It was very sudden, and I actually went into the emotion so intensely that the people living on the next floor above me, who never talked to me, we
Yeah,
were separate lives, they're like, "What's going on?" I was wailing, wailing, wailing.
you were when your cat passed.
Yeah. And I let it out and let it out. And it took about 2 weeks of that.
Yeah,
And then the love took over. But I had to practice the techniques that I showed you
yeah,
and other techniques. That was just one of the things.
right.
Let's,
No,
and really, we need so much help as humans because there's very few tools out there to make it through this very quickly.
right. So
Um,
so you would advise, I mean, for me, I couldn't have done it as quick as if I hadn't have worked with you. So my session with you, and we had one, which was pretty intense for me, um, I think helped me greatly. And if I hadn't have had that, I would probably still be in that fetal position, grieving, not a happy person who I normally am. Um, so so obviously it's advisable for people to do something like this, not try it on their own, but to seek out your help and get them through this grief sooner and understand that
and we
it
only
should
did
be
one,
love.
right? I think we only did one.
We did one session. Yeah.
Yeah. So you did amazing because
Thanks.
I call this training because when you go to a personal trainer, they train you, they tell you, do this exercise and this and this and this and this in that way. They're not doing the exercise for you. Just as right now, I'm not doing the training for you. I'm instructing your body, mind, spirit to vibrate at a different frequency. And the body wants to, the soul, the mind wants to be at the frequency of ecstasy. And when it feels it, when it entrains, it's trained and it entrains like a train has carts. When it comes in line with its right frequency, boom, there it is, and it stays there. But sometimes it takes a few trainings. You don't see a
Mhm.
personal trainer once unless you're very diligent and you do your
No,
exercise.
you need to see a personal trainer 3 times a week if you want to see any results, right?
Exactly,
Things
exactly.
don't happen overnight.
So this is another panel
Yeah.
where I actually work with the energy field, and the energy field is called aura.
Yes. Now
So
I see, is this mine or
yeah, this is yours.
is
Let
this is
me,
mine? So we see all the different colors.
yeah,
Um,
these are the chakras here, and
right.
I'm gonna line these up for you.
Okay.
I'm going to, in the past, before I found this device, it would take me about an hour to do this properly, to properly clean up the aura and the chakras and then line them up.
Right.
So that we're like that train that's moving in one direction as opposed to. So when I scanned you a half an hour, maybe now it's almost an hour, this chakra, this you can see this little yellow dot here,
Yes.
is the chakra that should be right in the center. It's called the stomach chakra,
Yes.
the solar plexus.
The solar plexus where you feel, but
And
you
that is,
always feel things there, right?
it's actually your solar, your sun, your central sun. And it is not to do with anyone else, even Max. That was just your space.
Right.
And likely before we got on this call, you were like, oh my goodness, how is this going to go? And, we had to run around and find the right place for you to be
Right.
sitting, which seems to be working quite nicely now. This started to come back. So let me find out what your when we have a shock or an injury or any kind of trauma, it sits in our energy field. It shows up in our energy field. And in about 15 seconds, you're going to see where there are disturbances in your field. And then we'll discuss it.
Okay. And you can, it still amazes me that you can do this through a computer and you can pick up my energy fields.
Yeah. Even Star Trek, they needed to be right next to you to wave
Right.
that scanner and change the body. I'm always amazed. So these ellipses, or they're ellipses, they indicate that that's where there's disturbances held in your field. Let me look around the body a little bit here on the right side, and if we wanted to, we'd probably see when did something happen, when did you get injured. This is what's behind you, and the intention.
What does that red circle on my back mean?
This is a blockage or a snag in your energy field.
Oh,
Now, when we think of auras, we think of like, this is my bubble and this is the
yes.
bubble and like this. But in fact, it's not bubble, it's it's raised. And I use my hair as an example, okay?
Yeah.
So I've got curly hair and see
Yeah.
there's knots in here because I have curly hair.
Right.
So I can remove the knot. These are knots.
They're
And
knots.
my intention for you today was to see whether there still was shock trauma in your energy field from Max.
Right.
And we know there is because your tears are very close when you
Yeah.
talk about him. So this is from the past, right? It's behind you, but it's still intersecting through
Got
your
it.
heart area. So your heart is still feeling it. And so we're not going to interpret everything, but let's let's start to minimize these disturbances. So we're essentially combing out the aura. We're combing it out like this, and this aura is like a Swiffer. You know Swiffers that you clean your house, the
Love
dust.
them. I have them at home. Yeah.
These are they're like very fluid, and they can pick up other people's stuff. Like when Max was going through his transitions, you probably felt it, but you probably couldn't make the connection.
Right.
And okay, as you can see, and notice this blockage right here at the bottom.
Yeah.
This
By my feet.
it's what's keeping you from moving forward.
It's what's keeping me from moving
Yeah, you're
forward.
moving forward, but it's like if it wasn't there, you could really go for it. Yeah, and you are going to go for it. There's no question.
So
But
how do I get rid of that, Lena?
that's what I'm doing.
Okay.
I'm doing. So they're minimizing, and I'm going to clear it. And that let's there's still this in a little farther from your body. Let's look around your body and see. There's something here on the right hip and top of the leg. And we're not going to talk about it because that's very personal. And let's see what else is left. And there's a little bit on the right side, which is our, I equate the right side to, we have both male and female in us. We have the animus and the anima who work together. And the right side is the male side. So you're moving forward, and yet there's it's taking a while, right? You're you're finally getting going, and there's little
Right.
blockages or feelings of self-doubt. We saw that in the emotion chart, didn't we?
Yes.
So let's see if all the blockages are gone. Is this one on the hip? Did you used to carry him?
Carry him?
Yeah, did you carry him?
I carried him once in a while, but not that often. No.
Because he wanted to be on his 4 feet, four square on the ground. I
Yeah,
know.
he was not one that liked to be carried.
Yeah. But you also took him on flights and all kinds of things. So
The only time I actually carried Max is when there was an escalator and he knew he couldn't go to get on the escalator himself. He had to jump on me. So he would jump on me and I carry him up the escalator. But yeah,
and
I mean,
again, we're not going to drill too deep, and I don't want to ask you. I don't want to draw up more emotion, but
right.
I wouldn't be surprised if you carried him on the right side. Are you
Yes, I
right-handed?
did. Yeah,
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 yeah. So there it was. There's that imprint of your lovey on.
right.
So okay, so we've cleaned up the disturbances in the field, and now let's line up the chakras.
Am I going to feel any different after this?
This is really not. This is not a full session.
Right,
Um, and also, we're very focused on this interview.
right.
So
But generally, your
yeah,
clients would feel
they feel
different,
yeah,
like I did when we did a full
yeah,
session.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. That's the idea.
right,
Or their physical pain shifts.
right.
Like today, I got a call from a gentleman, his wife. He's got incontinence. Suddenly, he's got incontinence. Help! So we're going to
Right.
fit him in after our session today.
Oh, you are? Wow.
It's that kind of physical. I get calls from mothers with babies who've
Yes.
got colds and flus. Please help. It's mostly people start with the physical pain because that's what they want to get rid of the most.
Yeah. Are you finding more and more people are understanding the quantum physics and what you do as opposed to thinking it's crazy and it doesn't work? Are you finding more people are realizing we are law energy and you can help us feel better by doing this kind of thing?
It's it's coming.
It is. Yeah.
It's coming, and as you know, we're raising our frequency as humanity, which is hard to believe today.
Yes.
But those people who are not being um, brainwashed into fear and anger
Yeah.
are raising their frequency through just higher thoughts, spirituality, meditation, connecting with the higher parts of themselves.
Mhm.
This is your alignment that I'm going to leave you in.
Okay. I think my alignment looks a lot better now than it did at the
It
very
is, it
beginning,
is,
didn't it?
it's as good as we're going to get. Actually, it's not as good as we can get today because we can keep working it.
Right.
And I'd like to see your root chakra be about the same as all these others. And these chakras, just for those people who don't have never been exposed to that thought, they're the organs, the equivalent of organs in the energy field.
Right.
Our our brain governs the thinking. Our hearts govern the pumping. Our stomachs govern digestion. So they're all equivalent. But this brown chakra here governs the intestines and the reproductive organs. And the root, see this here? governs
Yes.
your physical vitality, your big systems, your skeleton, and your bank account.
And my bank account.
And your
So
bank,
so I really should be working on my root chakra then.
yeah, absolutely. Making sure you're getting the workouts and getting, so I not only work on people and their animals, I work on homes. I can run a session on a home, a business, a property.
Right.
I even work with associates in the biofeedback field on the planet.
Hmm, interesting. Well,
We
because
did
that's
some,
all energy.
it's all energy, and it's this modality is very flexible, and will work on in many different ways. We worked on the LA fires
You did.
when they came up. So I know I've just thrown so much at you. Oh, and by the way,
Yeah.
Aura Snags, this gives us some clues as to why there were these ellipses in your field. Power, like this whole incident with Max was disempowering.
Right.
You were gobsmacked. You were actually thrown off your game. And that was still in your field. And let's see whether, when you talk about him, whether you're there's less emotion, less sadness and grief, because it's still there.
Oh, I don't think it'll ever go away.
It will.
It's
It does.
better,
It does, because with
does it?
Sati, I do not feel grief.
You don't.
I feel love. And also now that he's communicated with me and he says he's around,
Yeah.
I'm just celebrating him being as an energy cat rather than a physical.
Right. A physical cat.
And the day will come when Max, not only you will not feel the sadness, but you may even considering getting him another body
Right.
and get a puppy.
And
Or
getting another dog.
yeah, and
Yeah.
now
I have asked Max to send me another dog. I have asked for that because I do believe in speaking to him and I have conversations with him and I say, I'm getting ready, but find me the right one and come and bring it to me.
yeah, someone who can travel with you, how you like to travel.
Yeah, just like Max did. Yeah, I need a good boy like Maxie.
And
Yeah,
so just the mental focus that
yeah,
when you're in grief and sadness, it's so hard to focus in one direction.
right.
And now that you've got a focus in terms of your work, podcasts, or whatever else you're doing,
Yeah,
it's going to be easier and easier to focus.
yeah, I found that already. Um, it's Lena, it's really interesting to me. Like you really did. I'm so grateful to you because you helped me so much with in one session. Do people normally have one sessions or do you recommend doing a few more just to get everything all aligned perfectly?
Well, we do have a place. Let's see if an unconscious, your
Yeah,
unconscious makes a choice to do more. Let me share again and see what your unconscious wants to do as the next session. By the way, we also, and I'm not going to go deep in this, where is it? Skin rejuvenation. Why don't I see it? We can do facelifts here.
okay,
I'm not going to go look for it because I want to answer your question of when would you like another session? And it's not me, and I really do honor the unconscious.
right.
It's suggesting in 1 week down
It
here.
is.
Bottom. Yeah, and always it's up to my clients. I don't just,
You don't force anybody. You
and I
put it
don't,
out there.
I'm not really not doing this for the money.
Right.
It's really my service, my sharing my gifts, but getting paid is necessary. Otherwise, I have to get a job. So
Right.
yeah,
And
so
I think this job of healing people is pretty important.
especially moving forward, we do need to heal
Yeah, we
in
do
order
need
to
to heal.
even spiritually. When you're not feeling good mentally or physically, it's very hard to meditate. It's hard to connect with source. It's like just a concept.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I believe all of that. How can people get hold of you, Lena?
Okay, let me share My,
Because I know you've got WhatsApp and an email.
yeah, let me visually show you because otherwise, who can remember?
I know.
Okay, so this is
Okay.
my website,
So
Quantum Leap.
your text is 416-879-4162.
Yeah, please text. Phone calls are secondary, please, because there's so much spam.
Right.
Likely spam is what my phone says most of the
Well,
time.
you too, everybody is on WhatsApp anyway. So by WhatsApp,
Yeah,
I know you're on WhatsApp. So we communicate through WhatsApp. So that's the best way, I think.
and that's international too. No,
Right.
and my website is Quantum Leap on YouTube is Quantum Leap Biofeedback.
Right.
You can reach me at Gmail at Lena Raz, R-A-Z, Z if you're in the US.
Yeah. At gmail.com.
Yeah, and moving forward, I'm going to be teaching this, and I'm going to be offering not just one-on-one sessions, but showing you what a session looks like on Zoom, on YouTube,
Right.
and then I'm going to offer group sessions so that we could bring a group of people in on Zoom
Right.
and do say weight loss. We can do
Oh, great.
facelift. We can do
Right.
facelift. We can do we can deal with anger, fear and anger, which
Right.
is rampant right now, or we can do pets.
Okay. Well, pets is my love and my passion. So thanks so much, Lena, for coming on today on A Dog's Devotion and explaining to people what you do. It's a little far out, but people are starting to get it. But take it from me, you helped me tremendously. I mean, you saw what I was like on the first session compared to now.
Yeah.
And I think it's been about a month since we
Oh, I think it's
first talked. Has it been a little
uh,
bit longer than that?
oh, it's a blur, right?
Yeah, it is a
We,
blur.
we'll be surprised. It would have been last year sometime.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you. Thanks for coming on and thanks for sharing what you do. I know we could have dived into so much more stuff because there's
I
so many more
know.
screens and things that you do, but at least people got an idea of how you can help them get through grief of an animal. Or let me also mention, as you said, a sick animal who just needs some work and
Yeah.
you can do that too.
And I'm not replacing the vets.
But no,
I'm doing what
important to
they
know.
cannot do,
Right. Yeah.
especially from a distance.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Lena. And
Thank
I'm
you,
sure I will
Carla.
be seeing you again so I can get my chakras all in line.
Okay,
Okay.
wonderful. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.